Hi, this is episode 6 of Learn Piano in Your Car, and I'm Carol Brotherston, the founder of Perfect Piano Academy. Today I want to talk about practicing and how much practice a beginner should do. I suggest the best way forward, I've seen it with my students, I've been examining and researching this. The best way forward is to build a habit of practicing every day. Now, your practice every day could just be 5 or 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be half an hour or an hour. Just bite-sized pieces. Every day is the key. If you miss a day, ideally don't miss a day, but if you do miss a day, don't beat yourself up. And don't stockpile the minutes either. So if you're aiming for a habit of 10 minutes a day, say, and you miss 3 days, don't think you've got to make up 30 minutes, because that's an obstacle in your mind. That'll become a barrier to you getting back at the keyboard and practicing. So just don't beat yourself up, be kind to yourself, and if you have to miss a few days, just go back whenever you can and start the 5 or 10 minute sessions again. Now, how do you do that from scratch? So I suggest you want to be building a habit. Now, how do you build a habit? A habit is not just, it's more than just saying that you're going to practice. A habit is something that you do on autopilot, and that's the best way to approach this. I started a habit a while ago of going swimming. So I set my clock for say 7:30, and I started going swimming 3 times a week. From that 3 times a week, I built that up to 5 times a week. And then, because I was already doing the 3 times, do you get that? So it's quite easy to add another 2 times onto a habit of 3 already. Then I decided I wanted to do more lengths. So on the 5 days that I was swimming, I got up an extra 10 minutes early, got myself down to the pool and did an extra 10 minutes on top of the 20 minutes I was already doing. So, and now I've added to that another 15 minutes. I've built in 15 minutes on the treadmill before I go swimming on top of that. So it started with a 3-day 20-minute habit, moved up to a 5-day 20-minute habit, which moved up to a 5-day longer habit where I'm swimming 1,000 meters instead of 600. And on top of that, now I've added 15 minutes on the treadmill, building a habit on a habit on a habit. So you have to start somewhere. So I suggest you look at your day and think, where can I fit a 5 or 10 minute piano practice habit? Where does it fit? Does it fit before work, at lunchtime, when you get home from work? Where? Once the kids have gone to bed? It doesn't matter where, but I suggest you fit it in somewhere that makes sense on top of a habit that you've already got. For example, do you always sit down with a magazine at 10 o'clock in the morning? Okay, so sit down with the magazine, or instead of doing the magazine, do the piano, or after the magazine, do the piano. A habit on a habit, something that you already do, because that triggers it. You'll trigger the piano habit because you've set it on top of another habit. Then, once you've got a nice little habit going, what do you practice in your 5 to 10 minutes? You don't just sit down and do the bits you like, or else you just get really good at doing the bits you like. Thinking back to my swimming pool analogy, I want to get fitter. If I go to the swimming pool, so I've built myself a habit, I'm going to the swimming pool back in the earlier days, 3 times a week because I want to get fit. If I go to the swimming pool, I've made that time, made that commitment, and I get to the pool, I put my swimming costume on and I sit in the jacuzzi and talk to the people in there, that's not going to get me fit. If I get in the pool and just walk up and down the pool, that's not going to get me really fit. It might help a little bit. But supposing I wanted, my goal, depends what your goal actually is. That's the key. So if your goal at piano is to become accomplished at reading sheet music and playing from sheet, then there are elements of things that you need to learn. You don't just get good at playing from sheet music by playing sheet music. Does that make sense? You don't get good at golf just by going on the golf course with some clubs and hitting the ball, or squash, or tennis, or running, or any sport. I'm likening it to sport, but it does apply. The same principles apply. If you want to get good at something, you don't just practice that thing. You have to practice the elements of it. So for example, for piano, you need to practice scales and arpeggios. You need to practice the theory. You need to learn about rhythm and the different notes. You need to learn about intervals. You need to learn key signatures, time signatures, and what does all that even mean? But all of that is relevant because it's everything that you'll see on a piece of sheet music. So you can't learn to read and play from sheet just by focusing on sheet music. Do you see what I mean? If you wanted to, if you were a joiner or a plumber or a tradesperson, you don't just learn to build you don't learn to build a house from scratch. You first learn to, do small walls. I'm assuming, don't know much about building, but you learn by building a small wall and then maybe a shed, and you progress like that. But you're learning all the things that go with it. You need to learn how to mix cement. You need to know what tools to use. You need to develop your technique. Plasterer, for example. Have you ever tried plastering or icing a cake? They make it look easy, but it's not easy. It takes dedication and time to learn how to work with the material to get a smooth finish on a cake or on a wall if you're plastering. It's exactly the same with piano. You can't just sit down at the piano, focus on the sheet music and keep playing sheet music after sheet music after sheet music and think that you're going to learn to play the piano just by focusing on that. And unfortunately, there are lots of resources and YouTube videos which will contradict what I'm saying. But believe me, and it makes sense, doesn't it? You need all of the different elements and time. It does take time. So anyhow, I've been Carol Brotherston. This is Learn Piano in Your Car. If you like what you hear, I actually have a 7-day piano reset set of resources that you can get at www.perfectpiano.org.uk. Also, I'm inviting people to send in their questions to my email address, info@themusicroom.org.uk, and I'll answer the questions on this podcast. That's all for today. Don't know what else to say. But be sensible and be wise. You cannot learn to play piano without putting the time in, and when you sit down and practice, you need to put the time in on the right things. You don't get better just by practicing the things that you're good at or the things that you want to be good at. So I hope that makes sense. Bye for now.